G'day guys and gals. Alright, so the daily contract today is Erosion 3. I will say that this strategy I'm going to be using is not particularly new player friendly. You're going to definitely need to have quite a few unique operators. I will offer some alternatives to some that I will be using, so don't panic too much, but there will be a small handful that you're going to need. So that's the disclaimer, I guess. So we're going to need two flag bearers, Myrtle and Elysium. Elysium is one of those specific operators I mentioned. Depending on your mastery skills, you can use skill 1 or skill 2. I'm using skill 1. If you have mastery 3, you can use skill 2, but it's really one of those things that's up to you guys. You know, sometimes some of you might have Elysium mastery 3s, so go for that. Elysium is not who we're going to be waiting for as far as skill cycles go, so don't panic too much about the mastery skills, but probably avoid skill 2 unless you've got it at mastery 3. Standard Vanguard, high damage. I prefer Texas, as most of you know by now. Scavenger is the alternative, but yeah, I would prefer Texas if you have her. Armia with skill 1, because we do need her throwing damage the whole time. April with skill 2, her camouflage skill. A good pusher, so F-Eater is, as you can see with my mastery skills, F-Eater is my go-to pusher, so a lot of people may probably just use Weedy, but it's up to you guys. Use your best pusher with their skill 1, sorry I should say. A single healer, I've got Suzero, because basically it's not going to be a situation where we're going to have a lot of damage being thrown around, but we will need a healer. So even though their deployment rate is tripled, just grab your best single target healer and go with that. Where are we? Ethan with skill 2. So Ethan's got a bind, which is going to be really important. Even though it's really RNG based, but that's okay. 2 good slowers, so your 2 best slowers. These obviously aren't my best slowers, but Earth Spirit is one of the best slowers in Arknights just because she slows on top of slowing. So if you've got Earth Spirit, grab her. And Penenko, you can just use, say, Orchard. If you're really so inclined, you can go as crazy as to go, say, Angelita and Suzerain, but it's really up to you guys. Now, I prefer to use a good AoE guard, a nice solid AoE guard. This is again another personal preference thing. I mean, ideally you'd probably use Blaze with skill 2. I'm just grabbing Spectre for a couple of reasons. Her self-heal is hard to beat on a map that we're struggling with healers. But outside of that, you can grab a tank if you really feel you're going to have the deployment points for it. Like a healing defender, I should say, but you're probably going to be hard pressed. Last but not least, the support unit we're going to be grabbing and borrowing is one of 2 operators. Now, one of them I couldn't actually find, so I'll show you guys. The first is going to be either Fartooth with skill 3. The alternative is... grab yourselves a Rosa. So I'm going to be grabbing this Rosa. This bind skill works fine. It's not mega essential. Rosa will get the job done just because of how she works. I'm not going to lie, I find Fartooth a little bit better, but nobody on my friends list or on the cycling I've been doing has Fartooth, so I actually was forced to give it a go with this Rosa here, and it does work with this Rosa, so... yes, either will work, but the Fartooth is preferred. Alright, I've rambled on enough. Let's get into this. If this helps you out, gives you some food for thought, leave a sub, helps me out a bunch, and I really do appreciate that. Okay, so deployment times are super important. So let's get Myrtle in first. Then our standard Vanguard. And then Elysium. After that, we're going to wait until we can throw in our sniper at the back here, so Rosa or Fartooth. The benefit of Rosa, I guess, is that she will always attack this boss, which is not the case with Fartooth. Fartooth does tend to sort of divert a little attention offwards. Alright, then we're going to put Amir over here. And then as soon as this skill is ready, 1, 2. Now, it's going to vary depending on who you're using. Rosa takes a lot longer than Fartooth to get going. So don't panic, just wait until that sniper is good to go and then use Elysium's skill. That's super important. Ethan here. Alright, that's done. Everybody out. Myrtle is done. We're taking Myrtle out and we're going to replace her with our best pusher. Our best slower here, facing down. Our other slower, just facing this way. Elysium skill. Now try to avoid using Ethan's skill for these guys. We really want the elites. So watch what's going to happen down the bottom. We are going to lose Texas. The point is, I want that to just sort of last as long as it can. And then we're going to deploy our healer. Now, the healer doesn't really matter which way you face it. I mean, she's only going to be healing Spectre, so don't panic. From here, what we're going to be doing is putting April here. So I'm actually going to use Ethan's skill because, as you can see, they're all starting to come out now. Podenko's skill to try and get rid of that one. We don't want to leak too many of these dudes. That's the important part. We are going to leak some. I know we're going to leak some. We've got three health points left. Don't stress about it. We just want, it's basically a game of mitigation. That's all it is. So what we want to do now is we just want to sort of stick, this is the downside of Rosa. If you are using Rosa, it's going to be a lot harder to find a happy place for her. Whereas Fartooth, if you stick her here, she has a nice big area that she can cover. That is absolutely one of those situations where you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So slower skills, that's going to give our pusher plenty of time to just keep knocking them around. Podenko is great because that cloud sort of sits around for a little while. And the same thing with Rosa. The benefit of Rosa is that you can actually bind those enemies. Whereas with Fartooth you can't. It's, as I said, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Fartooth has better area of attack. Rosa has a bind in case you've been struggling. The bottom line is, you've got 3 health points. Use them. You don't get punished for, losing any. So, yeah, don't go spare if you lose a health point or 2. I know this one's super specific, guys. It's not typically how I operate, but the big problem is that in this particular one, if you let the boss go crazy, it's really hard to manage your whole team. So yeah, good luck. I hope that helps, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
ハイタッチしようか。